You know what they say, location, location, location. I don't really know why they say it, but Lorcana's getting some regardless. In the first two sets, Lorcana has had only three main card types, characters, items, and actions. With the release of Into the Inklands, a fourth type is being added, namely locations. So what are they? A location is a permanent card, or glimmer, the in-universe term for them. Like characters, they have willpower and lore values, but they cannot challenge nor sing songs. At the start of your turn, thus during the set step of ready, set, draw, you gain lore equal to its lore pips, so essentially it's forced to quest every turn. They are also rendered horizontally, both to distinguish them from characters and items, and also to signify that they are essentially permanently exerted. Thus, they can always be challenged even when just played. The final component to the location is the move cost. During your turn, you can pay ink to move a character to one of your locations, the amount of ink being equal to that indicated move cost. So why bother with all this? Well, the most obvious reason is that locations can have abilities. For instance, Maui's Place of Exile Hidden Island grants resist +1 to all characters added, and as has been seen, resist is a fairly powerful keyword. There are also some characters that care about being at or moving to locations, so in order to make full use of them, you'll want to run some location cards in decks with them. And then there's those lore pips. Locations can have 0, 1, or 2 lore pips, providing you with passive lore generation every turn, and most locations have exceptionally high willpower for their cost, meaning it will usually take multiple challenges to take them out. Granted, locations can't fight back, so no harm done to the challengers, but time spent swinging into a location is time not spent questing for lore. Now, if that's all there was to it, locations would be largely ignorable. They don't help you establish board presence, and an opposing board can just snipe them for free, so why bother? Well, remember that there are other ways to get rid of things than challenging, banishing, bouncing, or exiling to the inkwell. Ideally, unless you're the most hyper of aggro decks, you want to be getting rid of opposing characters, and your opponent will be doing the same to yours. This is most starkly evident in control matchups, where the late game can often come down to taking turns playing removal cards on each other's characters. In such scenarios, those locations are going to keep passively accumulating lore while the bloodbath occurs. But why do they survive? Well, remember, they're not characters, they're locations. That might seem an obscenely obvious thing to say, but look at every removal card from the first two sets, and most of them from Into the Inklands. They all specify that they affect characters. Before the introduction of locations, Be Prepared was a reset of the entire board, but not anymore. Locations go very well with Ruby decks because keeping the board clear of characters means there's no one around to attack your locations, which are thus free to keep gaining lore turn after turn. And this is why locations are so deceptively powerful. The only color with any removal that targets locations is steel, which got a solid chunk of it in Into the Inklands. Thus, any deck without that ink color is going to struggle getting rid of them efficiently. This has precipitated quite a shift in competitive playstyles. Without locations, it is much better to avoid challenges and rely on high lore, low strength characters to win as quickly as possible. But with locations, unless you're in steel with hard removal for them, you need to be running more of a tempo game, playing characters on curve in order to keep locations in check. Now, of course, those abilities shouldn't be ignored either. Motonui Island Paradise can provide a surprising amount of ramp throughout the game if left unchallenged. Jolly Roger Hook's ship almost single-handedly makes a pirate deck viable by giving them all free rush, and the Bayou Mysterious Swamp makes an entire pseudo-infinite combo work by allowing characters to draw then discard a card when they quest. The question then becomes, when do you play a location? If you play them too early, they can be taken out by an opposing board, especially against Amethyst and/or Ruby, who can rush out challengers. One way to look at a location with an ability is to view its cost as not just its play cost, but also the move cost. So the Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber isn't really a 4-drop, it's a 5-drop, because you want to play it and also move a character to it immediately. Now, this becomes trivial with Jim Hawkins' Space Traveler, who does all of that for free, but unless you're playing a location with no ability, you want to have a character in play to move to it that turn. And what about those vanilla locations? For the most part, you can just drop them as soon as you can afford them, but be careful about playing them into a large opposing field of characters. A good window of opportunity is when an opponent spends a turn doing something other than playing a character, such as to hard cast friends on the other side for draw, or playing a location of their own, or just getting hit with bad luck and not having anything to do that turn except ink. But keep in mind that a game of Lorcana isn't a recipe that you can memorize certain steps for to perform every time. It's more of an improvisation. Don't be afraid to ink your locations if you have a better play, or if you're falling behind in board control and need to get out a character on curve. And that's the deal with locations. Now go forth and try them out for yourselves. Oh, and if you're watching this in the future after more expansions have been released, please tell me they gave a color other than steel a way to hard remove locations, and also please tell me that it wasn't amethyst. They have enough tools already.